What's going on? It's Matt, and today I'm trying to make homemade gummy bears. Not just any gummy bear, Haribo Gummy Bears, the best kind of gummy bears. Let's get started.
Who loves Haribo Gummy Bears?
It's gonna start boiling over. Wow, this isn't working. We went a little past it to 115. Hopefully that's okay. Pair it to the
I don't really know what the cornstarch is doing then.
In my opinion, Haribo, I'm not exactly sure how to say it.
Let's talk about Haribo Gummy Bears. Aloha.
Are the best gummy bears. They're soft, they're chewy.
They're really squishy.
This is the only gummy bear. Everything else is second tier. This is why I'm gonna try and replicate these in my home kitchen. Let's give them a try and see if they're as good as we remember.
Start right into them. There are a few different flavors. 5 seem right. Oh, there's a 6th. There's this guy.
The red one is more gooder to me because it tastes like berry.
Nice little gummy bear lineup. Orange, pineapple. Pretty sure this one is raspberry, lemon, green apple, and strawberry. I think the colors differ a little bit depending on what country you're in. Let's give some of them a try, get a sense of flavor and texture.
These are the two that I was most confused about. I think this one's strawberry and I think this one's raspberry. Let's just give this one a try. That's definitely raspberry. Fairly certain it's not fresh raspberry in there. Try cutting into one and seeing what it looks like on the inside. Need a cutting board.
All right, which one of you wants to get sacrificed? Let's cut up this one. See how soft it is. It's like a little bit tough for my knife to get through. It's sort of what I expected. Basically a jelly all the way through. No air bubbles, no nothing like that. Stretches. Interesting is there seems to be, get it into focus for like a little bit of a separate layer on the outside. That just might be it drying out over time, but it does look like there's a little something that separates sort of this piece here and the inside of the gummy bear.
Let's jump on the computer and let's see if we can do some research and figure out if there's any tricks for how they're making this. This guy sacrificed himself, so I'm gonna eat. There's usually a making of series that's really good on YouTube. Let's see what we can find.
The machine then stamps the worm shapes onto trays of cornstarch.
I think that's what was on the outside, probably the cornstarch. I think that's why I was seeing a little bit of a different color.
And cooks the mixture at 115 degrees Celsius.
Need to write this down somewhere. 115 Celsius, I think that's really important. That was pretty useful. I think we learned a couple of things there that are gonna be really important for us. Let's go back to the kitchen and come up with a plan for making these. Before we started, I got these molds off of Amazon. You can see, you know, the liquid goes in here. Ooh, and they're even about the same size. And then I think dusting them in cornstarch is going to be a really, really good idea as well. Aside from that, the main part is basically a mixture of gelatin, sugar, flavorings, and food coloring. So what I'm gonna start with, I think, is by using this. There's a famous brand that is this. This is just the no-name brand that I can get where I live. I look at the ingredients, basically just gelatin, flavorings basically, and a little bit of color. This says there's no sugar in it, so we're gonna have to add sugar into this. It's gonna be a good starting point, and I think we can tweak a few of the things as we go to really sort of up our game. Let's start a test batch using Jell-O, prepared gelatin Jell-O, to see if we can come close to what a gummy bear is.
So this says to use 500 milliliters of hot water and then 500 milliliters of cold water. I think I'm gonna use half as much water because we want something that's a little thicker than this.
Gelatin needs heat to activate, to thicken up, to get that gummy texture that we want. So I'm gonna heat this up to 115 Celsius like it said in the video. So I'm looking for 231 Fahrenheit, which is 115 Celsius. Oh, it's gonna start boiling over. But it's pretty close, it's 212. Let's take this off.
Everything looks dissolved, so this looks pretty good. Let's prepare our mold. And these molds came with this little baster or sieve, or I guess not a sieve. Let's fill them up.
We got one mold done. It used a shockingly small amount of the liquid that I made. I'm gonna let these sit just on the counter for about half an hour or so. They're pretty full, so I'm just worried about getting them in the fridge. But if I let them sit, they should thicken up a little bit, and then I'll put them in the fridge for probably another half an hour or so, and then we'll see where we're at. So let's let these sit. Since there's so much liquid, I'm gonna do a test with no cornstarch in this mold and see how much of a difference there is. Might as well. All right, done. 30 minutes for these as well. Let's let them sit.
Wow, this isn't working. Let's try one of the other ones. This one came out a little bit better. I think I'm gonna let them sit in the molds for maybe another hour or so because they're not coming out very cleanly. Let's see if we can get them out. That is not the best gummy bear. They're really, really sticking. Basically just falling apart. I mean, that was one of the best ones I've been able to get out of there, and it came out of the one without cornstarch. We gotta rethink this. Not a great start to our gummy bear adventure here. This is the Haribo one. This is what I created. Not even close. Let's give it a try at least. But I mean, it just tastes like Jell-O. None of the textures there. It's even too sweet. We have a lot of work to do to get this up to the Haribo level. It's nighttime here. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm going to think about different ways that we can improve this and come back tomorrow and see if we can improve on our tests from today.
I've had some time to think about what went right and what went wrong. I mean, more went wrong than went right.
Basically just falling apart. Not the best gummy bear.
First thing is, I think there was way too much water. Basically what we made was Jell-O. In fact, there was so much leftover liquid that I have Jell-O here. This has hardened a lot more. It may have to rest longer than I was resting it for. It's thicker than Jell-O. At the end of the day, it's still Jell-O, and you know, it tastes a lot like that as well. I mean, it doesn't taste that bad. Point number two, we got the texture wrong, and in doing a little bit more thinking about that, I didn't heat the water up hot enough. I mean, it's pretty close. It's 212. Let's take this off. So I think I want to make sure that I get it up to that 115 Celsius. This thermometer is in Fahrenheit, so I'm going to change this right now so that it measures in Celsius so that I don't have to do temperature changes on the fly. This is measuring now in Celsius, which is going to make my life a little bit easier. 115 Celsius, that's what the video taught us. I don't know a ton about candy making, but I do know a little bit. There are various stages of cooking the sugar. Cooking it to different temperatures gives you a different candy. When you're making taffy or hard candy or those types of things, you want to go even hotter, you know, 130, 150 Celsius. I think they might even go to 170 Celsius sometimes. So I think we're going to need to make sure we get our sugar to 115. I went back and I looked at the package of gummy bears. The main ingredients in here, glucose syrup is the top ingredient, and then sugar and gelatin, and then a bunch of other ingredients. The fact that glucose is the top ingredient, I think corn syrup is what you would see in the North American version, are helping to get the texture that we really want. I just used white sugar beforehand, and whatever sugar was in that prepared Jell-O product. I said that there was no sugar in there, but I went back and looked again and found that there was aspartame or stevia in there. Those types of sugars aren't gonna give us the texture that we want. I think we're gonna have to break this down into its components. I don't have glucose syrup. I can't find corn syrup where I live. I've got some honey here from a friend of mine who lives in France. I think this is really, really good honey, and it's going to be really delicious. But I also think we're gonna get some of the flavors of honey. Anyway, it may taste a little more like honey than we want to. I've also got agave syrup. And last but not least, because I'm Canadian, maple syrup. This is from my brother. He made maple syrup and sent some to me, so we're gonna use his homemade maple syrup as another test.
So I'm gonna start with gelatin. This is sheet gelatin. I'm going to bloom this in some water, and I'm gonna start off with probably 10 grams or so, and seeing where that takes us.
This is the candy making phase, so 40 grams of sugar and about 15 grams of water. Let's start with the honey one and see how that works out. And let's add in my bloomed gelatin. I think that's mostly done on this part. Since we're not using the Jell-O anymore, I got something off Amazon to help us out. These are food flavors. There's a bunch in here. I can smell them already, but a bunch of flavors. We've got strawberry, lemon like we did before, green apple. Which one should I do? Maybe let's try lemon again. Let's keep it a little bit consistent. This is gonna flavor the syrup that we just made. And the other thing we're gonna need is a little bit of food coloring. I got some others somewhere else, but we're gonna use yellow in this one.
Well, my syrup has some bubbles. I'm just gonna skim those off because I think those are just gonna end up in my bears. All right, that's not all of it, but I feel like I'm getting more of the syrup than the bubbles, so we're just gonna have to deal with that. A few drops of food coloring and a few drops of our lemon flavoring. It's already starting to harden, so let's move to our molds.
The honey ones are filled. I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the agave syrup and the maple syrup. That's the other one. We'll have a few different trays of gummy bears. Do that quickly. These are gonna rest on the counter for 30 minutes and then in the fridge for 30 minutes. Let's do our other tests.
So I made a few different kinds. The ones with honey, with agave, and then these are the ones that I made with the maple syrup. I also started messing around with some of the colors to see if we can start getting them to look the same way. But most importantly, we're going after texture on this one. I guess most importantly, we're hoping they come out of the molds because they didn't last time. We've got a gummy bear. These are our first gummies. They're a little smaller. Hold on a second, let me find an Haribo. Here are the two gummies side by side. So, I mean, they're different sizes. I can't really help that because of the size of my molds. And obviously the colors are a bit different. The yellows are a little bit closer. So I have to fix the colors. So let's try the lemon. And now I'm gonna try the Haribo one next to it. So the flavor's not right, but the texture is actually pretty close. This was the honey. Let's try the other ones. They are sticking a lot, so I think I'm gonna dust them in the cornstarch. Yeah, the honey one is better. So I didn't do the same flavors on everyone, but you are getting the underlying taste of the sugar that I used. I think the honey is probably the most neutral. Yeah, this one is definitely the chewiest and I think the closest that we've gotten so far. Jenny, do you want to try some gummy bears? I think this is the best one.
Oh my goodness.
So it's mostly texture that I'm going for, like the taste and the color I need to fix.
Oh, there's the flavor at the end.
This one is supposed to be
green apple,
but I got the color wrong.
Flavor strongest in this.
Yeah, I think that was the one I put the most dots in. Yeah, thank you. So we're definitely on the right track. We've got a few different bears. Now we've got these two that are starting to look a little similar. Texture-wise, I mean, they could be a bit chewier. So we need to work on flavor and color. And I think the problem with using the honey and the agave and the maple syrup is that they're brown, right? They're naturally gonna make these a little harder to color. The inverted sugar definitely helped. I think we need to go the glucose route to see if we can get something that's clearer, to see if we can get these tasting and looking exactly like an Haribo. So I don't actually know how to make glucose, but that's why we have the internet. Glucose syrup. This'll work. It's basically just sugar mixed with water, like twice as much sugar as with water. Then they're putting a little citric acid in it. I think citric acid was actually in the Haribo's, the ingredients. So we need to make some glucose syrup. Let's do that now. A pinch of citric acid. You could use lemon juice if you wanted instead of the citric acid, but you're gonna get a little bit of a lemon flavor. Bring this up to 113 Celsius. We went a little past it to 115, but hopefully that's okay. Glucose syrup is chilling back there, which is gonna give us enough time to do our next test. I'm gonna change a few things. Obviously, the glucose we're gonna use instead of the honey and the other sugars that I was using. I'm gonna put a little bit of citric acid in it to try and amplify some of the flavors. And what's the other thing I'm gonna change? A little bit more gelatin. I wanna get a little bit more chew, so I'm gonna up the gelatin just a little bit. Let's make those changes and see if we can get there. I think we're pretty close. So I've got two of these little bottles, so I'm gonna make two different flavors. I think I'm gonna do lemon and raspberry, I guess. Those are the two that we've sort of done most in this video. Just put them into here and then let them sit like we've been doing, and then we'll test them out. Coming out really nicely, which is a good sign, is a gummy bear. They're sticking a little less too. I didn't like what the cornstarch did to the color, so I am going to just use a bit of vegetable oil and get the rest of these out of here. That is all of them. We got a homemade gummy bear. Like, look how good this looks. So, ignore the size. I mean, this looks pretty good. Even the color's pretty close. And I mean, this is sort of moment of truth. That's pretty good. It's chewy, it's the flavors there. I know I didn't get the yellow ones exactly right. I'm not really sure why that food coloring's not working, but yeah, that's really good. The lemon flavor's really good. Compare it to the Haribo. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty close. Jenny, come try a gummy bear. Here, it's a raspberry one.
My favorite. Oh my goodness.
I can't give you a raspberry one because I think I only have one left, but here, this is a...
Wow.
Here's a lemon.
The flavor's so strong.
There's the Haribo. That's that one.
What's this last one?
This lemon.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really
right?
good.
I think if the mold was a little bigger, like they might be a little chewier, but
I agree.
I mean, we gotta do what we gotta do.
To put two in your mouth.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed making these. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button. All of that stuff really helps out the channel. If you've got ideas for other things that I can make or try and recreate in the home kitchen, leave them down in the comments. To finish it all off, this is how you make a homemade
Haribo Gummy Bear.
Start by making glucose syrup. Combine 400 grams of sugar, 200 grams of water, or about 2 cups in 1 cup. Add about 1 gram or a quarter teaspoon of citric acid. Substitute lemon juice if you don't have citric acid. Set over medium heat and bring the mixture to 115 Celsius, stirring constantly. Remove from heat and let cool completely. Once cooled, start making your gummies by blooming 15 grams of sheet gelatin in water. Then in a small pan, combine 40 grams of sugar with 15 grams of water. Bring this mixture to 115 Celsius over medium heat. Then add 50 grams of the glucose. Honey sort of worked as well. Squeeze the water out of your gelatin, add it to the sugar mixture, heat for 2 to 3 minutes over medium heat. Add 4 grams or about a teaspoon of citric acid. Move the mixture to squeeze bottles or use the baster that comes with the molds. Add food coloring to get desired color and food flavor to get the desired flavor. Pipe into molds. Let sit on the counter for about 30 minutes and then into the fridge for 2 hours minimum. Remove by using a bit of neutral flavored oil to prevent sticking, and you've got Haribo Gummy Bears.